right, and we're three, two, one, and we are back, guys, on the Nobody's Famous podcast. As always, it's an exciting show that awaits you guys. And today I have a very, very special person with me, person who has been an unexpected and great friend in the last period and a very, very big supporter of the podcast. Today, I'm with the one and the only Azal Al Salafi. How are you? How's everything?
Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. I feel special, especially on this day. I'm doing well, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. And you?
Alhamdulillah. I'm doing well, and you're right. Today is International Women's Day. We're recording on this day, and the
On
show
this day.
will, yeah, and the show will be out a little bit later. So it's actually a pleasure and an honor to be speaking to you today. And I'm just gonna jump right into the first question here, Azal, for you. Art, in one sense, holds an image of rich people paying millions for like old paintings. It's one of the aspects. In another sense, the word art is used to describe generic photos of things people put above their beds, like a print or a painting of New York in the 1930s that you can buy even from IKEA. In what
True.
sense can art be meaningful to the common person? The Nobody's Famous podcast.
Well, it's the story of the person. It is the reflection of the person. That moment, or maybe um, moments. Because I don't know, like there are people that paint or perform art, and they have a specific target, a specific image in their head that they want to achieve, let's say. But with me, it's more like embracing what it's going to be unfolded, let's say.
Yeah,
So
and what would it mean, for example, for like a normal person to look at a certain art piece? What do you think that how they would feel?
I said that, actually just 2 days ago we were speaking about this with a family friend, and she was looking at my paintings, and she was like, Azal, it's funny, like there are some paintings that I cannot relate to. And there are some paintings that I feel like, wow, I reflect to. And so I think it depends on the person, why, like what it touches them at that moment. Maybe they could be in a specific, let's say, context, and they see it and they kind of connect to it depending on the situation they're in. But in general, everyone has a different taste. So what they would be expecting or how they would be feeling about a certain image or a certain artwork depends on who they are, and what are they more drawn to. So
Yeah,
that is, I think, my answer. I
we'll
hope I
be
answered you.
yeah, it we'll be getting into it a bit. I have some questions on art, and to be very honest, I've had my, for lack of better word, issues with some art pieces. Either being confused because I'm in a way a bit more
Yeah.
old school, where I like to see the actual painting and hope that there's a story behind it versus the abstract or the some of the
Mm.
modern art. So we'll get into it, and for sure we're gonna discuss it, especially some of the artists as well. Um, Next question is: does loving art require an education in art history? Is it like food in a sense, where there's a level of food that people call fine dining versus eating at like a fast food joint?
Well, I believe so, or I don't think that there will be a major if it wasn't the case. But for me as a person, I think it comes naturally. Uh, يعني, a school can be a space for referencing, it's more academia related. but it's not necessarily about a passion. These are two kind of separate things, I believe.
Yeah, I would like to know if um, it's a full-on requirement to actually have gone to art school to, because some people are born naturally with the ability to visualize or to create a message from a painting. It might seem super random, but then it has a lot of effect on people,
True.
which therefore in turn makes them the artist, the artist with that
That's
message.
that's true. I think I think maybe previously was the case where you have to actually go to school so that you can get, that foundation to create art. But now I think we have so much exposure and people are connected on so many ways, in so many ways, like especially through social media. And there has been like a democratization of every field around the world. So I don't think that now academia is like really making a huge role maybe, but it's like whoever is in that field, in let's say the academic field, who artists going to institutions, they have their own credibility, and that's why they're usually high priced, because they've gone through a lot of work and education. But then there are these talented potentials, talented artists that are they're just breaking through, and they're kind of you know like breaking these institutional walls, let's say, with their talent.
Yeah, and there's so many different forms of art. I mean, I think that's why maybe why actually going to art school is not required anymore. You might have a talent and you can just start posting it on your Instagram or something, and
Yeah,
you can become famous that way, or at least
true.
famous in the millennial level or even the Generation Z level. I mean, there's a very amazing artist that I know, Nouri Flayhan, and the way she has a very, very distinctive art style. And I just like to see how the art, now she does art pieces where people they don't have the actual pupil, it's just the eye. So the pupil
Mm,
is, yeah,
mm,
yeah. So I think that having a distinctive style, can really differentiate you from the crowd, and
yeah,
we'll see if the such art pieces end up being sold for millions.
I think
Um,
I think in general, sorry إذا قطعتك, but I think in general, I was talking actually about this subject 2 weeks ago with a friend, and we kind of distinguished that even people who would like try to duplicate anyone's work, you will always find something different. You a person's piece is a person's piece. It's an identity. You can't, like, even if you are copying pasting, you would look at it and you would see that it's not that person's work, it's someone else's work, and
mhm.
there's that difference. I think especially in art, there is a lot of issues in terms of intellectual property, but in general, I think if you have an eye for art, you will be able to distinguish it, whose work is whose.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
It requires a lot of experience and
yeah,
a lot of patience to look at these different art forms. And God, there are a lot. Um,
yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't even introduce you yet. So I still have two more questions before I actually formally let you introduce yourself. Um,
Oh my God. Go
you
ahead.
you you wrote something to me. Was this is what you wrote? You wrote, personally, I believe I have had a privileged yet unsettling way of living, resulting from my father's occupation, in which we continuously, every 4 years, locate to another country. So
Mhm.
the definition of home is still pending. I found this statement very very interesting, which helped me create this question. Is which we will be jumping into later, is you help migrant women find homes and find their own identity. I'd like to ask you, do we have to really define what home is? Is it absolutely necessary?
Wow, that's deep. um, no, not necessarily. For me, it's not necessarily. There is, I don't have a specific definition of home. Um, but I think I want to. I think human beings want to have this setting that is called home. And that's why we always try to seek it. Maybe it's just an illusion, because there are a lot of people that have homes, but they don't feel part of it. They don't feel like home. And so, yeah, it's one of these social constructs that we build and we try to belong to. Yeah.
I was thinking that you would answer yes, and then I would respond by saying, actually, some people might say no. So now I will flip it and say, well, um, if I was playing devil's advocate, I would say, in a way, you kind of have to define home. I am with your answer in a way, but I'm challenging you to
I
also,
have to.
yeah,
Hmm.
you have to kind of define where home is. And I think this is it's a basic, it's, I think, part of the basic human instincts, but especially now with how the pandemic, for example, has changed the world and working from home. Yes, people are struggling to spend all this time at home, but that kind of comfort on the kind of ability to create uh, that place which you call home to make it better, it's a quite unique thing, to be
Absolutely.
able to build upon that self and create that sort of identity. But I don't think it stops at just the place that you're in. It might as well have to be with country, nationality, your culture, and all that. That is probably the fuller definition of what home can be. And some
Of
might argue,
course.
well, home is just a place that you can really go back to and feel like, okay, that's the place that is filled with the memories that
True.
you enjoy.
True.
Yeah. Next question. While I want to delve into who you are as an emancipated woman, since it was part of your it was part of your response to the bio. I wanted to rather focus on you as a person and how you are an inspiration to others.
Mm.
Um, apart from discussing the reasons why women or humans in general should live a free life, do you agree with my direction on this matter? Like, do you agree that I want to talk about you as a person rather than your, the fuller concept of everybody else?
Well, it's up to you. I mean, we can talk about it generally, and we can talk about my personal definitions and responsibilities. I would call it then emancipation, because emancipation comes with a lot of, responsibilities and paths and risks that you need to tackle on the way to
That's
emancipation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think we will be able to touch on it at some point for sure. Um, well, Azal, I wanna formally introduce you now to the audience, but I'm gonna let you kind of do that.
Wow.
We There's a lot that you had sent me, and I just want to read the first uh, part of what you had sent to me in a long lost Instagram message a while back. You wrote to me that your field of work and research often focused on the dilemmas of migration and child protection. You lived a
Yeah.
cosmopolitan upbringing, and you were
Yes.
exposed to different political, economic, and cultural contexts from a very, very young age. and that
Yes.
made you recognize the urgent need to help migrants who were coming to Germany and Frankfurt, to where you live right now. And that's when you established a legal and life, which is very interesting to say, a legal and life advisory startup to
Yes.
provide that legal experience and psychological assistance for migrant women and children, to help them in the integration process,
Yeah.
support their well-being. So there's definitely a lot to unpack. My first question on that matter is, can you give the audience a glimpse into your upbringing, this cosmopolitan upbringing?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, as you mentioned earlier, because of my father's occupation, I think before I even turned one, we moved to Ethiopia. Fa- um, and I remember, like, my mother told me, like, you had your first birthday in the Yemeni embassy. Imagine. I was like, wow, what a privilege. They even had to break one of the walls. But imagine, this is the start of my life.
You wall
Uh,
breaker, you wall breaker.
I have to. It's in me. Yeah, I mean, that's how life has been with me. Of course, there were times where we would stop in a place and reflect, and my father would think, okay, what's next? Like, do we want to settle? But honestly, we were young, and I hated it at some point because I felt like I was losing friends. I could not sustain a specific way of living. Like, my friends from school or neighbors, I would get to know them and build these relationships with them. And then all of a sudden, he gets assigned somewhere else. And as a kid, I didn't really see the value in it. And I spoke to this to my mother, I think, when I turned 14 and we were in Qatar. And she was telling me, I was like, Mama, why do we have to go? We're happy here. We're happy here. يعني خلاص. And my little sister, she's like, where are you from? When you ask her where you're from, she says, I'm from Qatar. So خلاص اتعودنا. And so after some time, um, as I grew older, and my mother told me, actually, when I confronted her about this, I'm like, I'm tired, Mama. uh, what's the point of us doing this? Why can't we settle in one place? And she was like, when you grow old, you'll understand. Because my when I reflect back to why my family, my father and mother, had this lifestyle, it's because they too had that lifestyle. They understood that they wanted to give it to their children, and of course they were as well. They worked hard for it. They were lucky, but they also worked hard for it. Wow, Azal, without having that cosmopolitan upbringing, wouldn't be the person who she is today. Wouldn't have an idea, literally, of what's happening in the world, like, in depth. I've befriended, so many people. Like, I have people from all around the world. Like, and it's different. It's not like when you visit a country. Relax. It's like you actually enter homes. You see their interaction. You see their communication. You see tolerance, acceptance, and sometimes clashes. All these things kind of I reflect on these days, and I see as us as human beings, we're beyond just one group or one community or one religion or one whichever context that we are given and living in. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful experience. I wouldn't change it for the world now. When I was younger, it was different. Now I'm good to go. Yeah.
I asked the question because literally every single bio I found of you, I think it was 3 or 4 bios, even you said it yourself, you would
Seriously?
mention this word cosmopolitan. So I was like, I need to ask this question. I
Yeah,
need to ask.
yeah,
And it goes back to the question about home and everything. Some would argue it would be nice to grow up in one place and you can build connections in that.
yeah,
But even I'm sure the effects that this type of lifestyle had on you is you can literally be dropped anywhere and you will be able to create a life for yourself. And dare I say it, in some respects, I personally, and I think maybe some other people in the same position as me might also feel might feel jealous of that, because that's such a great skill to have, to be able to adapt quickly to the environment that you're in
yeah,
and not get this homesick feeling. I would say,
yeah.
which is, let's face it, it is a true feeling. Otherwise, people wouldn't be traveling back to their home countries to see their parents, to see their friends who are there. Let's face it.
True, true.
Um, my next question, Azal, is going a bit on the migrant side, and this is how we'll get to know you a little bit more. I lost you there.
I am with you, but you are paused. Like
Yeah,
the
it's it's
the.
it's it's
Okay, now
same.
it's better. Okay, it's better now.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It's
Cool.
good.
Yeah. With Azal and Co, you're helping migrant women, have them integrate into the society, and you're creating a social impact.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Azal, what is the underlying need in you helping these migrant women find a place for themselves to make the choice and settle? Is it rather, aren't you fulfilling a need within you as well as them?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna deny that. I think again, I think I will use the word reflection a lot, like within this conversation that we're having. Um, in general, if we speak about the context of Germany, uh, life is different here than any other country, and I feel like I've been a migrant twice in Germany. The time that I came with my father, and then I traveled and I came back. And the second time was when I decided that I left work and I decided to go back to Germany and settle here. Um, both experiences were different for me. Being under my father's, let's say, umbrella, I didn't really feel the struggle of being an independent person here or making a life here in general. And wow, when I came the second time, I lost, not, I didn't lose a job, but the situations in general in Yemen as well, they cost me my work. There was war there that started. I could not go back, and the Yemeni passport, basically, which I have, was a burden. And with all the qualifications that I had, I could not get in because of the passport. And so I kind of started, in order for me to fill in the gap in my life, because as I can't stay like this waiting for a job, I have to do something. I started volunteering and working with some organizations, communicating with some academias and stuff like that. And that's how I got in touch too with some of the people. Some of the stories, as I started translating for women, not women but migrants, refugees. And when I used to get called, I used to like hear their stories, like And that's how I started like interpreting to the organizations, whether the Red Cross or any other organizations that are helping the refugees. And it was something that caught my eye is that these people that are coming from, this, let's say, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, all these like
Yeah,
countries
the
that are in
war-torn
crisis.
countries. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Um, they kind of brought everything with them. They were creating their own clusters, their communities, and they had a hard time because eventually they were forced out. They were not expecting to come here and start a new life. They literally left everything, and so they started building it the same way they were back then. And they forgot that there are rights here. They forgot that they have organizations, they have a lot health insurance, they have the right to earn money from the government itself without anyone's help. So they had that. They didn't understand that, because when the majority of women coming, or the majority of females coming, if they are not with a man, there will be that situation where unfortunately an Arabic man will try to seize that moment and tell her, I'll take care of you. And so that kind of like really boiled inside of me. And I've seen so many cases where so many like normal conversations. I never really intended to give them legal advice, because I think it's a huge responsibility. And although I was licensed back then, but not in Germany, so I had to study the German law for that. But just from few conversations, I saw that few of my friends who are educated people, just like me, who are in very terrible situations. They're being assaulted, they're being, humiliated, and so many stories. And I asked one of them, she was telling me, she was crying, like, oh my God, this happened to me. She actually got married to a person by a sheikh, a religious marriage, and here they do not recognize these marriages. And she's like regretting it. And what am I going to do? I was like, girl, you're not married. Don't worry. You're not married. What are you worried about? And then eventually I understood her story was more complicated than that. I took her to the lawyer. And that's when, I understood that women, not only do they need legal help, they need life. They need some guidance. They need someone's perspective that is a little bit more open. And that's how I. There are a lot of stories, Ali. If I open them up, I think we will leave this session with only these stories. But it was the stories of these women that triggered me to cater for them and to just like help them really just raise awareness about their rights and their capacities, and they can do much better and much more than what they've been told. Yes.
Very much you are down at the streets in the community and just
Yeah.
putting your ear to the ground and really just looking at what's actually really happening with people. And I can't really imagine how difficult that might be. It's not even in my mindset or framework to even think the kind of issues that are happening. Um, and as you were speaking, I was really in the zone with trying to get a glimpse of you walking around and actually speaking to people or finding people, and really just starting from the basic thing, which is translating because they didn't understand what was happening. um,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, like, normally in the context again of Germany, it's hard for the normal people. It's hard for the expats in general. فما بالك these people who are like really just forced out there, they need to start a new life, and they're coming from they're very vulnerable, so they can fall in that spiral, and that darkness, and somebody needs to be there for them. Yeah.
It's a very selfless statement coming from the question which I was trying to figure out if it was selfless or not. um, yeah, and well, it leads very nicely into my next question, which as a migrant woman yourself, that's
Mm.
where you've built the connection. You have established yourself as a beacon of light, as a hope to these people. I don't know if you know this or not, but that's what you've established yourself as. I want to ask you how this passion has drained you as an individual.
Of course. It has consumed me, it has drained me, but it has taught me a lot, and it has taught me how to shield myself. In order for us to actually help people, we kind of need to put on this shield so that we can be effective um, and fair when dealing with situations. Of course, it's hard. It's hard, and that's why it's one of the reasons that until this day I do therapy, because it's energy, and these struggles, these traumas, they're kind of you suck them, you suck out of them. And if you don't have a specific technique or a mechanism where you can, let's say, protect yourself, it could get dangerous. I know a lot of people that, they were isolated at some point after doing some missions, and it hurt me too. But I don't know, with me, I was able to always see the light. I was able to stand up. Um, yeah, I think that's my answer. I hope
Yeah.
I answered you.
Again, it sounds horrific, to say the least. The things that you might have went through, and again, I'm trying to understand a bit because me personally, I cannot say that I've been through the same. So I wanted you to share the story, and I think if people know you
Mm.
the way I know you, they won't imagine these things that you are saying.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
won't imagine. How do your parents, and in specific your father, see the change that you are bringing in the world via this social program and the way you reject cultural norms of your country and the Arab world in general?
Wow. uh, um, my father, my father's perspective. Baba Habibi. I have a very, he is my mirror, literally. Baba, in my worst and the best times. And it scares me sometimes because um, he has taught me, and mainly me and my little sister, to be strong. يعني أكثر من أخواني حتى. Um, but at the same time, he was also protective of us, and in general, he's always been concerned of what I do. There are many times where I clashed with him, of course, but when I sit with him and talk to him, it makes sense to him. It makes sense that this is part of my identity, and I know it's coming from your protection. These are your parental instincts, basically. So it's hard to tell him not to worry. But in general, I think he's supportive, and even when he's not supportive, he's supportive, because it kind of pushes me forward to make him to make my point, to make him know that I'm right. And even when I'm not right, I then know that it kind of led me to the right direction. uh, I think I appreciate that in him a lot, to have been progressive as a parent, and to um, have given us, or me specifically, the space to argue, not to say yes, but to argue my case. And yeah, I think still he's a mirror. He's my mirror.
I'd like to say, if I can imagine the scenario of
Yeah.
you speaking to him, I'd like to imagine that in his brain,
Yeah.
he can't deny that you're this way. He can't deny
Mm.
that that you have this need and requirement to help the the migrants. I think that he was in a position where he said he must have knew, he must have expected this, he must have seen it coming. So, which I think I'm very glad that you shared that, and it just shows the strength that you possess. And
Yeah.
um,
Trust me, I cry a lot.
we're not even halfway through, Azal. We're not even halfway through.
No, I'm
So,
okay now, but in
okay,
general, that
okay,
strength comes from a lot of crying.
okay.
But I'm
That,
good now.
okay, good. We'll move on. We'll move on.
Mm.
Let's change the subject. Um,
يلا.
but I don't know now because I think if I change the subject, it might
لا
be.
لا لا خلينا like flow. Let's go with the
Yeah, we're
flow.
going. This is the flow. This is the flow right
Yeah,
now. This is the
great,
flow.
great, great,
Um,
great.
so Azal, you sent me a photo
Uh-huh.
of the Mercedes Benz with a palm tree behind it, and it was overlooking the sunset.
Yeah.
I think you had sent it without any explanation. So now
Oh,
is
should I
your
have explained?
well, you could have explained briefly, but I think now is the time. Now is the time. So please explain.
Ah, wow. Well, it's one of these holistic moments for me. It's everything that represents me in that photo. Um, the sun, uh, either on like with me, that I have this really strong connection with the sun. And by the way, my name, as far as I've been told 2 years ago, because it's not Azal, by the way, it's Azal. So I'm putting you on the spot. I'm just kidding. No, so I was in Morocco 2 years ago, and I was sitting with a family of friends. And the lady, because I always thought that my name meant Yaman, Azal, which was given by Sam, the son of Noah. It's where they landed after the Tawfan, after the flood. And Azal meant this blessed holy land that was flourishing, that people could live in, basically. But then, which I love, I have no issue with. Then 2 years ago in Morocco, the grandmother of my friend, she told me, by the way, Azal in Amazighi means the start of a new day, the start of a day. And for me, it was like, wow, because I always leave the curtain, like the curtain open, so that when I wake up with the sunrise. I've always I've I've always had that within me, and I've always connected with the sun in its rise or its set. That picture was actually in Tir in Saida, and it was one of the best days I had there in Beirut in Lebanon. Sorry, in Lebanon, not Beirut. I was in Saida, of course. But
Put you on the spot now. I'll put you on the spot.
yeah, no, I'm cool. I'm cool. But anyways, um, I love palm trees because they are resilient and they represent me as a human being being resilient. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. I love dates as well. فاللي بيطلع منهم, like, for me is just like, oh my god, the best fruits ever. And the car represents movement and forwardness and like junctions. And that was that junction that was the last time, let's say, I felt liberated and myself, these elements were kind of representing me in my element. Yeah.
How can someone explain a photo better than that?
Oh, shukran. Thank you. I hope I was concerned and no, you'd ask other questions after that.
There is more. There's more, but not about the
Okay.
photo. Not about the
Okay.
photo,
Okay.
because I think it's a great explanation. Uh,
Thank you.
Two fun facts about me, actually,
Yeah.
um, and a bit about the show. Actually, I also love palm trees, believe it or
Ah,
not, but
well,
my love for them is not as profound as you, I guess.
okay.
It's a reminder of my childhood, the same thing that the sun is. I basically, growing up in Abu Dhabi, basically grew up on the beach, and my parents used to take me always. So the beach was very much a part of my childhood, and the sight of the palm trees and the sun and the sand
Yeah.
was just it was like the signal that the weekend started. And I've said this before on the show. um, it was the signal that when there was school, and then there's the
Yeah.
signal to the weekend starting. And the sunset was actually something that I hated, because it would signal the end of the weekend, and then the next day there would be school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So over time, I started hating even the time, like 6 o'clock, five
Mm.
o'clock, when the sun would go away. Even till now, I hate it, and I try to actually incorporate this into. So very trusted fans of the podcast will know that before the actual brand that you see now,
Yeah.
a rebrand had a lot of these elements in it. It was all part of the
Wow.
palm trees, and there was an element of the
Okay.
sun, and there was an element of the sunset as well, um,
Amazing.
to signify that you might be listening to the podcast at sunset. So uh,
Nice.
very,
Yes.
yeah, while you're driving maybe to Dubai.
Philosophical.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
super
Yeah.
super deep. Anyway, moving on. um,
Amazing.
you said that you lived on the expectations of others. Who are they?
Hmm. Wow. Everyone around me.
That's
Everyone
unhealthy,
around me.
though.
Yeah, because mind you, it is my own. It's in my brain. So of course it's unhealthy. But I thought that as well. Uh, but things it's like an art piece. Like it unfolds when you start questioning things. It unfolds. So I always had that misconception that my family had this expectation from me, my relatives, my society, my work, uh, anywhere, literally being in a foreign company or a Middle Eastern company, both had same expectations. Is shocking for me, and not professional wise, but me as a woman. For yes, but these barriers, they kind of, it's like the walls, like you deconstruct them. Um, and I've been breaking free since September last year,
That's good.
September 2020.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
thank you.
Because doing that actually goes a lot hand in hand with, I talk about a lot on the show, which I do on a regular basis, is comparing yourself to others. Because when you compare, then you put what they've achieved and as an expectation on yourself, which is
Yeah.
again very bad. But also, we might, even now, we reach at a point in our lives, in the age that we are at, where we could, maybe teach those younger than us that they
Yeah.
should never live this way. And I think you also come to realize at this age you've achieved already a lot. So expectations now is just your expectation is about yourself. Can I be better than who I was
Absolutely.
yesterday versus what will my parents think? Because, which is in a way, it's a bit bad because you have to fulfill their expectations, and then
I
now you're
think,
like, I'm relaxed now to not do anything more.
yeah, that's true. But I think, what's even harder is your expectations within yours on like between you and yourself. And I realized that I've been very critical, and I've been expecting way too much of myself, way too much. Like, I don't even expect to the extent where like I would be expecting something from someone else. No, I have to do it. I'm the one who's responsible. Go get it, that's that. And that's bad. That's unhealthy. Um, well, I've been working on that. It's not easy, but come on, let's say in terms of, let's say this for the teenagers. Uh, I must say that social media has been raising a lot of campaigns on awareness, um, on self-image, bullying, and everything, that's we are aware of. But there is a challenge that because of that exposure, they'll always challenge themselves to be better than others. So how can we draw that fine line, where we can make sure that these young people do not harm themselves, but at the same time, they grow in a say, like they utilize these platforms for good, but at the same time, you know, they do not harm themselves or harm others. It's tricky. It's very tricky because there is always pros and cons. There's always advantages and disadvantages in anything, everything. But I always believe that it's a collective effort that we all need to come together in a community, family, friends, peers, everything, governmentally as well. Um, yeah, to when we want to create awareness, when we want to make a change, خاصة الأطفال, and teenagers especially. I know it's that rocky stage where no one knows what they want. They just want to belong. They just want to find their identities. ف يعني the more activities there are for them, the more acceptance they are of who they are, giving them that space, but at the same time, making sure that they are not being harmful to themselves is very crucial. Sorry,
Yeah.
that was.
No, that's okay. I mean, I'm, I have mixed views a bit because I'm kind of like, I like what Matthew McConaughey said, and he said that you should always see who, try to attain who his hero is always him in 10 years in advance. And if you can look back in
Mm,
those 10 years and probably look and say that you've done better,
mhm.
that's good enough. But again, I'm not denying that that's also in a way unhealthy, but I would just
Yes.
say,
Yeah.
um, if you're gonna try and be better, and to the young kids, I would say compare or have the
Yeah.
expectations just within yourself, even though you said that it's difficult. Um,
Yeah.
my next question, Azal, is give me
Custard.
one. Yeah, so many questions. Give me one example of your unorthodox approach to something in your life.
Hmm. Um. Well, there are many. Uh, I hmm, because there are many. I don't have something specific in my head. Um. I hate routine. For example, I think creativity uh, mm, keeps me like, in order for me to be innovative, I need to be creative. And if I stay in the routine zone, I'd I'd die. I'd be stripped of my creativity. And that's why I try to, like, for example, not have يعني not a normal day. I have normal days, of course, but not have a specific designed routine where I would wake up in the morning on a specific hour. I would do whatever, I'd pray or I'd meditate, and then I would start working and go on by the day. I go to the. I'm not that type of person. If I wanna anjaz, if I wanna like be productive, My day, every day has to be different. So that's one unorthodox thing about me. And I really like try as much as possible not to like put myself in that bubble where coaches say, like, or like these personal development people, these innovators or entrepreneurs, you have to be disciplined. Discipline doesn't have to be that you need to have a routine. Discipline is you being consequent, you being fulfilling, working towards that fulfillment that you're trying to fulfill. And it's I think I always throughout the day, sometimes, like sometimes I would skip a day. It's to that extent. I would literally skip a day. It would probably be on my mind. I should be doing this. I should be dancing. I should be painting. I should be just for the innovation part to عشان يوصل. But I'll be like, no, stay in bed. Watch that thing that you don't want to watch. And you'd be surprised. You'd learn something. You'd learn, like, if you're a reflective person, if you're mindful and you're like aware of your surroundings, and you'd hear your, like, sometimes your this
Pulse.
your pulses. You'd like really, like when you're reading a book, you'd understand better. uh, you would see this movie and this film or a series or whatever, and then this sentence will just pop up, and it will just give you that light bulb. This is what I want to do. I'm linking this project with that project, and this is what my next step will be. For people, I think people should give up routine. Not for everybody. Some people
I
are
thought you
just
were gonna
organized,
stop
but
there
I
and say
think
people should give up. I thought that's what
no. Oh my God, never give up. Never give up.
I thought
Honestly,
that it sounded like that you stopped there. It's like people should give up.
should give up routine for sure. I mean, it depends. There are people who are like they're more organized and they love it, and that's how they accomplish things
Yeah.
in general. That's enough for me. I think that's how, I mean, being that type of unorthodox like way of living. uh yeah, this is هذا سطحي. I could go more in depth, but
Yeah.
I'll leave it for
I'm
another.
I'm I use both methods.
Uh-huh.
So I use
Good.
the routine because if there's deadlines or I know that there's certain things that I need to meet, I stick
Yeah.
to the routine. And as you said, I might skip a day, but then there are other times where I try not to put too much pressure on myself. And I find
Mm-hmm.
out sometimes, especially, for example, when I'm writing the description for the show, or I need to come up with the title, or I need to do something or create a post, whatever it is, any type of creative thing, not necessarily with the show, doing something else apart from thinking of it actually helps me. So I don't know.
Nice.
I'd be sitting eating and I'd think of an idea, or I might be in the shower and I
Yeah.
think for some reason always in the shower the great ideas come. So I can't actually talk
Yes.
and write them down. So I think yeah, that
Yeah.
would be a great title for the episode. So it would
Yeah.
be yeah. It just so I do both, and I would say to close the subject off, I think it's you should give yourself some space to, especially if you're trying to solve something. I think just leave it and come back. That's what I do.
Absolutely.
I leave it. I leave it. It's very hard to do, but
Same.
that's what I do.
Same. Same.
Um,
True. Same.
Before we move to art, I have
Again.
one more again. Yeah, I have one more question more about you, Azal. Is what kind of therapy or self confrontation do you do, or did you do?
Oh, I did a lot of things صراحة. I did I started online because I was afraid to expose myself to therapists, because at some point I think I didn't believe in them. I thought that they were just money suckers. But Eventually, I kind of needed them. I understood once I started, like I did that online, um, like self work, literally. It would take me like one session or one task of therapy. It would take me sometimes months to accomplish because I was doing it alone and there was no one guiding me. But it took time with me. From I did a lot of tests, and then I did, I learned a lot about myself. I think that was good for me as well that I did it on my own, because I had that safe space. It was between me and my mind and my heart and my soul, basically. But then once I started understanding myself, I understood that I needed a coach. Um, and I had different coaches throughout my past 6 years, I guess, depending on the need, depending on the situations as well. Sometimes there'd be months where I don't really have any communication with anyone, and I just like if there's something I would do 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 like you utilize the tools that I have learned to take me out of a specific situation. Let's say that in general. يعني في أشياء طبيعي إنه like there are some times where it gets so complicated and you kind of need sometimes you even like your closest people can be your therapists, literally. Sometimes my mother can give me like the most amazing insights and the most amazing therapy with one word sometimes, and that's why I keep the doors always open and I ask different people depending on the context, of course. However, I've been having one coach for since the past year. She's an amazing person. You know her, Maha Lucy. She is because she's a business coach and a life coach at the same time. So I thought that there is no need for me to seek someone else. But I always also get advices from my friends and get perspectives mainly, not only therapy or coaching sessions. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, self-confrontation comes with a lot of just acceptance of, the eternal, maybe internal things you're facing or issues or problems, and
Yeah.
having the space or, having the ego to accept that somebody else should, speak to you about those things, and even you speak about them yourself, definitely. Um,
I also had the help of my family, by the way. Sorry, ولا قطعتك. I one of the tools that I used to use when I used to use them alone, I used to go like ask one by one my friends, my family, what do you think of this? That was like really the hardest part in
mm,
confronting myself. So because between me and myself and I was transparent, but it's harder when you're receiving specific information from especially dear people from you, and you always think that they have the best
mm,
version or image of you, but sometimes it's not the case, and that's why you start learning more about yourself.
true,
It's a beautiful process. It's not an easy process, but it's a beautiful process.
true, true. I think I seem to struggle with letting go of the mistake or letting go of the that
Mm,
issue, and in some ways I also resort to my family and my parents. I mean, I'm an only child, so it's just them. So when I ask them and I take their perspective, in a way, if I can, and I see that I could get past it, then I'm happy. But I think for me personally, the self confrontation it's constant. I seem to sometimes not let go of the mistake, which is not good,
mm,
obviously. Um, and there will be a
mm,
lot of past thinking, and this is where I would give advice and say, the past is the past. You confronted yourself, and you can confront yourself. You always don't have to be punished by somebody else. This is a very big
absolutely.
mistake, and
Yeah,
you could get past it. Yeah.
absolutely.
Azal, I want to make it a little bit exciting with some of the art stuff here. I mean, personally, look, I love art, and
Mhm.
there's stuff that I hate. Okay, there's
Okay.
there's stuff that I can resonate with, and there's stuff
Yeah.
that, I mean, I have to be very honest.
Yeah.
Like, and I studied in university. I studied fine arts in university, and I was in a.
Wow, I didn't know.
I mean,
Mm.
I had two classes, to be very honest. My major was economics, but I took two classes for the lack of
Mhm.
better reason. Was one of them, was kind of easy to do without a final, as everybody uses that excuse. Um,
Always.
but that class, I would say, it was amazing because we got to see many different forms of art. And an
Mm.
artist as yourself, I want to look at some of these, just a few things. I mean, I would say I appreciate and I criticize at the same time. So we talked about Matisse, Picasso, Barnett Newman, um, and we had, for example, an art piece. I think it was of Barnett Newman, where he painted. It was literally just his blue, Newman's blue, and there was a white line going through it. Do you know that
Yeah.
piece?
I've seen some of all of his blue work arts. And unfortunately, I always wonder. But hey, you know what? The funny thing is that you'll never find any other blue like the blue that he uses.
Okay,
It's
so here
highly
we go.
distinguished. Yeah, it's highly distinguished. It's Newman's
Are we
blue.
serious now? Are we serious now? Are we
It's
doing this?
almost close. It's almost close to what you're wearing. The color. I'm sorry, I have to say that. But I totally understand. Yeah, I mean, for me, there's a lot of, as you can see behind me, there's a lot of texture. There's a lot of phases. There's a lot of, like, you can see, but I really, I tried many times to just like with one stroke or one, like, you know, this, this one blank, like to work with something that is unified, let's say. It's hard. And I
Hmm.
believe that's talent. It may not make sense to people, but it's a capacity that not everyone can actually have. And sometimes I don't need to understand it for me
Hmm.
personally. But I that's why he is recognized by that. That's why almost all his art pieces are depending on even the texture. Like he sometimes may use sand or things that with the same color, but a different texture, let's say, and but it will all be blue. What does it mean? They don't even. I was in Nice the other day and I was trying to read. ما في shit. There's nothing. It's just it reflects it. It's him.
I would like to give you one of the explanations that was given during that class, which I never forget. And
Yeah,
it was because of the white line going through it. The discussion
yeah.
was, oh, well, it's about individuality. And I was like,
Ah,
hold on, guys. Hold on. Am I really in this class right now? Am I really hearing this? It's just a blue painting. And yeah, the class was literally like that. Every day I would go and struggle with these explanations coming from engineers, no less,
oh,
who wanted to make a statement that they understood the art. And I was just standing on the side. I was looking, really, really.
no, no,
And
yeah.
that's why I wanted to open this discussion. I mean, I also, we also had discussions of Rothko, with his, the difference of the orange and the warm colors and the yellow, how they would fit together.
Mm,
I mean, he's quite known for that, and
mm-hmm,
that was associated with his feelings because of World War II. So I understand, as I grew older, I kind of understand, especially now with the explanation you gave about Newman, I kind of understand where that is coming
mm,
from. But you get my point that this does not resonate with everybody. Not everyone can go and look at I mean, I was at, I think, I hope I don't get this wrong. I was at the MoMA
Mm-hmm.
museum once because I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
love, you know, I love art pieces. Don't get me wrong. I love Starry Night, Velázquez. I've been to the
Yeah.
Prado
Classics.
in
Yeah. Yeah.
Spain, and that just
Wow.
it blew my mind. You know, seeing the siege of
Yeah.
Braga with the pikes,
Wow.
it blew my
Yeah.
mind. It literally
Yeah.
blew my mind. But you know, when I was in the MoMA, there was, I think, there was a piece where it was just literally a white wall, and there was a statement on top of it saying that this white wall was shot by an air gun, and
Wow.
that was the art piece. And I was like, okay,
Wow.
come on, guys, give me
I
a break.
mean,
You know, I was like, just give me a break. You know, like I can only go so far. You know, I love art, but just, you know, work with me here. You know,
do you
so it
know
was,
how many shotguns happened? Why
and
this piece?
yeah, I mean, it was just that I hope I don't I hope that I didn't get this wrong, that it's in the MoMA, and this was, I can't remember the
Yeah.
artists and all, but I just, you know, sometimes I think I speak for a few people, and that's
Mm.
why I'm asking you as an artist, that you understand what I'm trying to say is sometimes there's art
Absolutely.
pieces that are
Mm.
very difficult for people to understand.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with me. Like, and I don't think that we need to understand them because they reflect the story of someone, and we kind of just need to enjoy them. Maybe that's how superficial I sometimes feel. Maybe not my paintings, but I do resonate with some works, even if they are, let's say, blank, but some are not. I think what you have to always notice, I think you have to notice your energy surrounding that art piece. Some
Mm,
art are very minimalistic, but it would mean a lot. Like you would feel that there is a specific story, there's a specific energy. And some have been really hard worked on. There are so many details that can nothing, blank, literally. But I know my friend, one of my friends, she visited the Louvre in Dubai. It's in Dubai, right? Or
Abu
Abu
Dhabi.
Dhabi?
Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, yeah. And she was like, oh my God, it was beautiful, amazing. And then I was almost out, خلاص طالعين, and there was this really big painting that has an M, like a letter M, and I'm not sure, I've never seen it. Like she didn't even send me a picture, but she was angry because she kind of understood all the art pieces except that piece. And she was really frustrated. And no, why didn't I get it? Why didn't I resonate with it? Why isn't it nice? So I think you like it's a normal thing that you don't resonate with all the art work. You shouldn't actually. We just have to respect that person that worked on it because it is an effort being done. You don't know the process. Maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe the packet of paint that he used was like 100 years ago. You never know. And at the same time, maybe that situation that he was in producing that artwork was difficult. And I think that that's what most agencies usually bet on.
Mm,
Art agencies is the effort, the work, the
yeah.
story behind that artwork,
Mhm.
not how does it look like.
Yeah. Okay,
Oh,
I understand
yeah,
that. Look, and
yeah.
I also relate, and to close this subject off, I also relate to the energy part. I mean,
Mm.
if I tell you the stuff that we saw in that class, you know, in Beirut, in AUB, I mean, we saw an artist, basically she was painting using her period blood. I'm not joking.
Oh my God.
And we saw even an artist selling literally just air, but he was
Yeah.
selling it. And those things, especially at that age, for me, I was very conscious about those type of things, where I go like, really, are we really
Mm.
studying this right now? And I do now, with my a bit of experience, I kind of understand where it's coming from, and the energy, as you said,
Yeah.
I was blown away by Velasquez's detail and like
Mm.
photogenic, thing. And out
Mhm.
of all of these things that I had gone through in that course, out of spite, I actually found an artist that I really resonated with, and
Mm.
name was his name is Gottfried Hellnwein, and he does photorealism. And
Okay.
you should really check out
I will.
his. They look like photos, but they're not photos. He actually
Wow.
painted them, and that's
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
and that's out of spite. That was my final project because I wanted to show people that if you
Amazing.
can make it look like a high-res photo, you can paint something
Then
that
you
looks like
are
a,
an
then you
artist.
are an artist. So that was
Yes.
my conclusion to this thing.
Yes.
I did all these questions just to get to this point.
To this
Sorry.
point. Thank you. Noted. I'm never touching
Next.
a brush again.
Next. No, I'm joking. um Before we get to the end, Azal, we're kind of like in the middle right now.
Okay.
Middle, I want to say, is a
Mm.
tough word to say at this point. um I want to ask you about Khazana. um Obviously, by the time the episode is out, hoping that the first issue will also be
Yes.
out. um and you've described it, Khazana, as a bi-monthly journal with raw voicing perspectives, in-depth stories, just the stories that your aunt would say on
Mm.
socioeconomic, political, cultural affairs across Arabia.
Right.
It's a lot of stuff to unpack. Can you I want to ask you two questions here. Is what's the trigger that made you start a project like this, Khazana?
Mm.
And what are the difficulties and
Mm.
challenges that you faced or are facing to bring Khazana to life?
Wow. First of all, Khazan is like my baby. So I'm getting all sensitive. No, no, no. There are a lot of reasons that made me start with that. And it's not just like recently. It's been a 3 years old project that have been kind of, or even more, that has been on my mind. And uh, going through a lot of research to understand the gaps that I kind of needed to fulfill. Um, but it officially started last year, coming out of the pandemic. Uh, just me and my colleagues who studied human rights and democracy and other authors. We kind of had our way of research, our way of writing, and we thought, okay, why not? Why don't we start it? And we just wanted to create, like, to raise awareness about certain controversial topics that are usually neglected in other platforms, or, like, let's say, highly politicized in other platforms. And we kind of wanted to speak about it transparently as individuals, as normal people, not as experts, but also sharing our expertise within that context. Uh, One of the things that was, like, quite difficult for us, like, to or let's say it was me bothering me personally, is the chaos of the information, the world of information that we're currently in these days. It's fast web, buzzwords, repetitive narratives, very politicized. They're biased, and there are at the same time so much narrative, so many unique stories that aren't being heard. And they are, of course, hard to be out there, because the reason that they are not out there is because of the like the issues, like the things that I shared with you right now. But um I think I just had the problem with, how can we provide quality data? How can we provide mindful data, mindful stories? And how can we connect with the youth? How can we also there are so many questions. How can we also, you know, utilize someone's effort that, like, for example, these researchers that, you know, have you worked for years on their work or their papers, and once their, for example, their theses or their policy papers are done, you know, they're stacked in archived and they never see the light of the day. But why can't we utilize these? Why can't we, let's say, either upcycle them and try to filter, um, create a, let's say, more rhythmic, homogeneous, a slow web movement, from all these elements that kind of, you know, structured us, and that's how it started. That's how it's a process. It's a day by day. You learn something, and then you understand that there's this gap is needed. There is this gap that we kind of need to fulfill. I think we're driven by creativity and innovation, and that's why, like, the majority of us that are working currently are like really outside of the box. Um, and I think that is our strength at the same time. Being diverse, different fields, different topics, different perspectives, different stories. All this kind of got together in a magical way that I can't really explain. It was just like one post, who's interested, and, you know, like, I was bombarded with applications, and you know, we went through this filtering process, and things got real. Things got, you know, it took shape, and I'm like, oh my god, I need to catch up. I need to catch up. But you being part of it as well. It's We're still in the beginning. We're still learning. It's an experimental process, basically, where we are learning to, like, create these identities into one diverse identity. It is hard. The process is hard. The diversity is sometimes, it could be tricky. um, I try not to say that. I mean, I believe that, yes, I can be a leader, but I want to be more. I want to be a person that enables potential. I don't want to be that type of leader that they will just, like, yati maham, give you some task, you fulfill it. No, I think one of the successes that is, like, currently working well for me and creating this harmony in the community, people that are working in Khazana, is because uh, we work in um, a holacracy manner, rather than hierarchical, and so there are no positions. There are tasks, like, pick whatever, position yourself wherever you feel like it. I think this comes because, me as a creative person, I don't like to be put in a box. I am there to guide, but I'm not gonna box you. Be who you are. I think one of the issues, however, because we are tackling controversial issues, we might not be everyone's cup of tea. So being progressive means being daring, being bold, being um, breaking stereotypes, going out of your comfort zone. And throughout this process, we've lost some talented people. But I'm proud of them because at the same time, they have these values and principles that they believe in, and I totally support them for that decision that they've made, and I have made as well. There are principles, there are guidelines, and beyond my personal, let's say, criterias, there's something that is I've created, like, for Khazana, which is beyond me as a person. It is a collective. It is the people's work, not a one person's work. So we work with the guidelines. We work with the identity of Khazana as a collective and not one person. So sometimes we kind of have to suck it up and let things go. And that itself is power, I believe, towards success. And maybe in time will come where things will shift around, but anyone who's been part of this, they'll always be part of this, you know. There's always a space for them. They always can come back. And I think this is what because I work with organizations as well and community building, I think this is crucial for the future for organizations to function properly, is to have this really mindful space for the community to grow, for them to discover themselves, to discover their potentials, and yeah, just just be the guide for them, be the role model through guiding them. There are people that will need the help. There are people, of course, that they'll tell me what to do, and you should. بس في كمان people that wouldn't want to be restricted, and they do more than just giving them a specific task. So yeah, I think Khazana's experimental, this educational process has been going on. It's been very colorful, sometimes very dark, very risky, but at the same time, this beautiful work of art is like is being unfolded. Um, Amazing people. I think I couldn't have done it without people working with me. And we are working towards really, maybe not, I don't want to use the word revolutionizing, but again, breaking these institutional walls. We want to bring the people that are really experiencing life and not just experts from that high level that are just going to give you their advice and insights. No, we want experiences. We want expertise. We want genuine, authentic, uh, at the same time, evidence-based work. And then, this blend of writers or authors coming with these artists and creating this beautiful blended one piece, a visualized piece of the data itself is it's something that many people that can connect to. Not everyone has the time to actually read, so we try to tackle all these elements that are missing and to cater to them, and at the same time we focus on a sama. And you are doing an amazing work, I must say. And that's why we've aligned. I shared with you last time, we've aligned with the Nobody's podcast, because Nobody's Famous podcast. Because, we believe in the potential of people that are, not necessarily influencers, without these hundreds of thousands of followers, without the experts. Maybe they know the know-hows, but, in reality, you need more real people, so yeah.
I mean, the undertaking is definitely a difficult one, and you will still face more challenges ahead and more obstacles. But what interesting takeaway from what you said is you're creating something bigger than yourself. So there's gonna always be toughness to it and obstacles and people who will challenge the concepts. But we're waiting, and we're gonna see we're gonna see all the different elements that are gonna come together with Khazana, and
Thank you.
it's definitely one of those very um, unique, on the fringe, off the cuff type projects. So it's very exciting to see
Thank
all
you.
these different things coming together. Um,
Thank you.
Azal, I want to take you to the bonus question round, and then we'll conclude with some final questions. Um, so some bonus questions for you here is, you you said you feed off failure more than success. Now, I've overused this concept a lot in the show. I talk about failure being, a normal process and a normal stepping stone to getting to where you want to go. Um, well, what are the failures that you have experienced, and how do you feed off them? Just maybe just talk about one or two.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can pick. There's the academic failure, there's professional failure, career-wise. Um, but I think failure in general, I would pick one point, which is me failing, not understanding what failure is. So whenever I fail, I feel like I failed. I really feel like, oh my God, Azal. I never, like at that moment, I never see it for an opportunity. I never see it that it's a learning process. But this hurts me. And I sometimes I feel in that zone, and it's like really like physically, hatta for me, physically, it pains me when I fail, when I do not accomplish. Like maybe it's part of being the creative. Maybe I now think that I need some routine to manage deadlines. But in general, no, I do. I manage my deadlines very well. But I think that makes me more disappointed. That makes like the feeling that I get from failure, and the fact that I kind of disconnect myself, that failure is within itself success. It what bumps me, it's what makes me feel like a failure, because I lose that feeling that this is a learning process, and that is like the worst thing ever. But I learned, like if I tell you how I feel about failure now, uh, to like, and how I felt about it 2 years ago, or even 6 months ago, I'd feel I'd say very different, completely different. And within each failure, there is a lesson to learn, a message that you get, and that's why the definition of failure changes as well. But it still remains a lesson, always.
Yeah. I mean, people who watch the show know how open we are to failure as well. So
Yeah,
and as a normal thing.
yeah,
And I do agree with your point about the understanding what it means to fail.
yeah,
Um, and the definition changes the more you fail and the more you understand how that can be a door opening elsewhere to things.
yeah.
So I'm really happy that you shared that point. Um, go
I
ahead.
think failure, I think just one thing that we kind of need to do, as maybe this is an advice that I've been implementing on myself, is that once I realize that, oh, this is a failure situation, I let go. Literally, just خلاص,
It's
let
very
go.
hard to do. It's
It's
very
very
hard.
hard to do, but it is easier. It's much easier because things kind of get back on track on its own way. So I think sometimes because we're possessive, we want to control everything, and that's why we tend to fail. That's one of the reasons, because we want to have that control. We want to, like, there are certain expectations that we need to fulfill. So when that happens, so just let go. It'll come back
Oh
in
yeah.
its own way. Yeah.
Oh, I can vouch for that. How difficult that is. I can say that for
Yes.
sure. Um, quickly,
Mhm.
something I found interesting was I was looking at all these different bios that I mentioned before about you, and even yourself, you never described yourself as an entrepreneur. Why? Why
Mm.
so? Why have you never described yourself as when that's literally who you are?
Oh, wow. No, I believe that I am an entrepreneur, but I'm maybe I don't know why I don't use this term. I never like really noticed that I don't use this term. But I'm hardcore entrepreneur. I have this really too like يعني this entrepreneurial spirit عندي is like expanded صراحة. And I I don't know what to say here. Um, I really don't know. I never recognized that. I never like I've never shared it. I don't share a lot actually. I don't. It's just I think maybe it's not because I don't consider myself an entrepreneur or an artist or a lawyer, because depending on the phase that I am in, that's how I communicate who I am. So the time that I am working on a project, I say that I'm an entrepreneur. The time that I'm working on a case, I say that I am a legal person. The time that I'm working on an art piece, although I've never said that I'm an artist, because I'm self-taught, and for me it was more therapy. It just it just happened to be. But I think it depends on the situation how I introduce myself. But if I would introduce myself, I am more than that. I'm more than just an entrepreneur. I'm more than just a lawyer. I'm more than just um, an artist. Let's say. I think day by day, the more I explore about myself, I gain more definitions. I could be a researcher. I could be, I don't know, a community servant. I don't know. I try not to label myself a lot as well. I think that's harmful. Just like embrace who you are at that moment. I am proud that I am an entrepreneur, however, that's for sure. I'm not giving up on that title.
It
So,
yeah, yeah. It's
yeah.
actually your response brings me nicely to the final bonus question,
Okay.
because you're talking about all these different definitions of yourself. I
Mm,
mean, I don't really know you that well, as a like
yeah,
it's been a brief time that we know each other, but I
true.
noticed something that
Mm.
you're very much a person that is you are the go-to person on social issues, and
Really?
yeah, like people seem to gravitate towards your opinion on things, and you have
Yeah,
connections that
sure.
people like. I think people wish to have, and you have connections that are quite varied and across the world. And this goes back to, the beginning of the show about your cosmopolitan lifestyle. Um, what do you think uh, about that type of pressure? That people have the chance to come and speak to you, about their issues and
Hmm.
stuff. And what do you think? I think that's I think look at it also differently, is that is a testament to who you will become in the future as well.
Oh, wow. I never see it as pressure, Ali. I never see it as pressure. If I can give, I will give. If I have the resources, the means, the understanding, the perspective for it, I would give it. I mean, why not? Why do we have to hide it for ourselves? I mean, we're not living here for ourselves. We are, of course, we need to be prioritizing ourselves, but we're living for others, basically. And we need to give in order as well for us to receive. Fa, why do I get, I don't know, why do I get, maybe it's my energy. Maybe because I'm open and not non-judgmental. I don't judge. I don't judge whichever situation. And there's always a safe space, I think. I'd start judging, maybe, but not judging. Like, let's say, analyzing, use a better term, the situation when I go more in depth by understanding, especially if it's something in my field, if something that I've been through. That's when I start analyzing. But in general, I don't think anyone, and I think everyone can actually be of support to anyone else. Like, just stop being judgmental, give them the safe space to talk, or to like to know that you're the person that you can go to. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
all that I can say. I'm not
yeah.
sure if
I
I
mean,
answered.
I will disagree on a few points there and say that
Go ahead.
for sure, you know, I'm with you when, you say you're living and in the service of others and all that stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
but I have to disagree as well and say that,
Mm,
as much as people will help you and all that, I think you sometimes are in a position where nobody will help you. And even in your
yeah.
worst position, um, you might feel alone. So I really have to say sometimes you need to really help yourself, and you really need to take action on certain matters.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to ask and maybe shed this light on this part of you. Maybe, as you said, maybe you had
Mm,
not noticed it as much, because I think,
mm,
Azal, you are, whether you know it or not, you are becoming that,
mm.
a figure for people who can go to on a lot of stuff. Um,
Not at
and
my own expense, though. And of course, I am mindful of
yeah,
my
yeah, of
spend.
course, of course,
I'm learning. This is learning,
yeah,
of
of
course.
course.
Yeah.
Azal, I want to say that we have reached the conclusion of the show, and
Yeah.
with that, there are the three final questions for you.
Wow. So many
Um,
levels.
yeah, yeah. It just, we just peel the onion slowly, slowly peeling the onion.
Wow.
Um, my first question, actually, shall we make it four? Let's make it four. So
Okay.
this first question here is, why did you decide to come on to the show?
I think I said it earlier because I reflected who you are. I feel like, I'm a genuine person with an interesting story that some people might reflect to. And I think when I'm talking here with you as a podcast, I'm dealing with a human rather than an institution. And I appreciate that. And I think I would like, for me, I'd be proud on like coming on this show than any other show that is like built institutionally, not human wise.
Okay.
أقنعتك.
امم أعطيني كتير. It's a good response, which not one I was expecting at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. Um, and how do you, or do you resonate with the show's name?
Yeah. Yeah. I do resonate because I don't feel like I'm famous. I'm not famous. I don't feel, it's not, there's no feeling whatsoever. I'm not famous. But there was that phase at some point that I felt that, oh, maybe I need to be famous to make an impact. And when I saw, of course, I recognized that's not the case. And when I saw your podcast, the name, the first name, like it's what really grabbed my attention. And I thought, wow, that's a very, and especially like the conversations that you were having, they were very fluid, very humanistic. And yeah, I'd love to be on. I reflected because I'm not famous, and uh, people can still make an impact. Simple.
Yeah, it's interesting how far the definition has changed over the course of
I bet. I bet.
the years that we've done, have had the show. It's,
Yeah.
what started as a couple of simple statements with huge impact. Now we can, keep going deeper and deeper with it, especially with how things are changing. So I thank you
Mm,
for that. Um,
voilà.
last two questions. I think one of them is more a statement that I'd like to make rather than a question. But
Okay.
when I was doing research about you, and I saw the Azal and Co website, what struck me first, I mean, I have two large screens on my desktop, so while I was writing questions, I put the website on the on the second screen while I was writing the questions, and I noticed that there's a video that plays
Mm-hmm.
without music, and it was such an interesting thing to see because at the beginning I was looking at it and I was trying to say, oh, maybe Azal's gonna pop up in this video. I'm gonna see her, and eventually you did, and I started seeing, and I didn't play any music. I didn't play the. I don't know if there is sound, but I didn't play it, even if there was sound, and it was just playing. And as I
There was
write
no
it,
sound.
yeah, there was
Mm.
no sound. So as I wrote the questions, I kept the website open in case I found something I wanted to add a question, something like that,
Mm.
and it would just play and play and play, and it would loop because it was around like 2 minutes. And I noticed that to me, what I noticed is this was one of your greatest moments or achievements,
Mm.
and I felt that it was a gathering that will live on forever in your career. It will always be like a highlight just
Yeah.
by looking at it without having there be any sound, and the way that people were interacting in that
Yeah.
gathering, it just felt that they kind of were all on the same wavelength and understanding the purpose for them being there. And I just, that was the statement I wanted to make.
Thank you.
I just felt that that was something, and it struck me. And as an artist yourself, I'm sure you will resonate with this quote. And actually, one of the, my most favorite quotes from Andy Warhol. I mean, I maybe the only quote that I know actually, but most famous quote, the quote that I like from artists is he said the best thing about a picture, or in this case, it's a video,
Mm-hmm.
is that it never changes even when the people in it do.
Oh wow.
And
Nice.
that's it's partly, I mean, my father is a photographer,
Wow.
so I understand the impact of such a quote, and I love to take photos myself. And while I like to say this is, it's bad in a way, because the photo is, when you take a photo of something and you capture the memory, it's very, it's the nostalgic memory feeling where,
True.
it's not good to live in the past. But I just thought, now with the pandemic and everything like that, we just took
Yeah.
for granted the concept of gatherings and not wearing the mask and all that. So
Tell me about
so yeah,
it.
I think more, that was more my statement about that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
The final
Should I
question for you.
comment?
You don't have to comment. You don't
Okay.
have to comment. You don't have to comment.
Okay. Okay.
The final question for you, Azal, is: do you have a question for me?
Ah, yes. Why are you doing this, Ali?
Whoa! Why am I doing this?
I'm sure you've been asked before. Yeah.
I have been asked
I've-
before. Um, Look, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of it,
Mm,
uh, there's a couple of reasons, but I'm definitely doing it for myself.
mm,
I've gotten to know amazing people throughout the course of this journey, and I've learned a lot about this, maybe a skill set that I didn't know that I have, and there's a lot of things that I need to still work on. Um,
mhm,
Always there are different steps that I have to take, but I've done a plan, I've done a process. I've tried to learn certain skills to allow me to sustain, whereas maybe before I couldn't. I do
mhm,
it for me because, and I've said this many times before, that I used to, I've especially at the beginning, I felt so happy that I could go online on YouTube and I could find a video and say that, you know that's me. I had done that, and if one person watched the video and benefited from it, then
mm,
that's a good thing. And believe it or not, actually, even a recent episode that we posted with Basil Zahar, where we were talking about mentorship, life coaching, and just accepting, or visualizing your problems and doing something about it.
mhm.
I had someone, you know, text me that they had watched it and it really helped them.
Mm,
And
mm,
so yes, I'm doing this for me, but at the same time, I enjoy that somebody can either benefit from, something like this, and really, just having having some great conversations, and I want to make an impact. I'm not gonna lie, I want the numbers, I want the fame, so to speak. I want the groundbreaking moments that can happen because of this. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna deny that, because I think with
mm.
that it will just allow me to just go even further.
Yes.
Who knows if I'll change? Maybe the fame will get to me, if that ever happens. But I'm not
I
gonna
don't think
lie.
so, but
Yeah,
if that
yeah,
ever happens, we'll track you.
yeah. Track me down.
We
All
have
the guests,
YouTubes of
all the
you.
guests will track me down. They, they all track me down.
Exactly.
I would like to say that, you know yeah, I'm doing this because I also want to really create something and call it my own. That's kind of what it is. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I'll just reflect on what you just said and say with the Nobody's podcast, you've been traveling. You've been traveling. A lot of people, they brought you all their cultures, all their stories. It's like traveling. It's like literally what I did, meeting people. This is a new wave of um, learning. A new, it's beautiful. I congratulate you for that, Ali. It's not,
Well,
and not anyone can do that actually.
well, I'm glad to hear that. I never thought of it that way. I mean, I did in a way, but I didn't think that I'm physically traveling. I mean, I like, the colorful aspect of having all the different perspectives, and
Of course.
and a lot of these different aspects of it. So
Mhm.
I didn't think it's similar to physically traveling. Now that I
Yes.
haven't traveled for a long time, as many people, possibly because of the situation. Um,
Yeah.
and with that, Azal, I want to say that this has been an amazing conversation with you.
Thank you.
I have
Likewise.
really, really enjoyed it. Do you have any last words before I sign us off?
Just thank you. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for hosting me. Thank you for creating genuine content. What's
Well, that's great. That's great, Azal. Thank you so much. I want to say that, your episode is episode number 50 officially, unofficially, because we
okay?
had a couple of shows that
Nice.
we didn't add to the full number of episodes, but you are episode 50, and I think that's a great milestone for us. And we're planning after
Thank
your
you.
show, yeah, and we're planning after your show to go back to live. And with that, it's an amazing thing to be closing off
Oh,
with you. So I'm gonna sign us off here
amazing. Thank you.
on the Nobody's Famous podcast. Um, Guys, this has been another amazing show of the Nobody's Famous podcast with the one and only Azal Al Salafi. We've had a great talk with you guys. You can
Yes.
uh, check out her new project, Khazana, Azal and Co. Her art is all there. Um, Check her out on Instagram at, I'm not gonna get this right, but Z-A
Zali. Dot
Zali,
A.
3 L's, 4 L's, whatever it is. Just write
Three
Z-A and
eyes.
L and you will find it. And 3 I's. She's just making it difficult. So I'm sorry. You know, you can always make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can watch this on YouTube. You can check us out on Spotify, Anghami, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all those good places. And we'll be with you all the way.